We are back for another episode of Love It There. It's been a little bit to get started, but here we are. We're ready. We're rolling. We're going. Hallie, how are you doing?
I'm doing so good. A little sentimental because I just had my first day at IU. So officially a second semester senior. So weird.
Wow.
But yeah, first day was great. It was really boring as it usually is, but
and you're about to literally, okay, so we're recording this on Monday and Hallie's leaving on Wednesday. To go to Tulsa. So she's literally just like skipping her first week of class. So
yeah, it's silly week. It don't matter. But and then it's MLK Day on Monday. So I'm like going to 2 days of school and then not going to be in school again for like another week. But
well, don't you have like no classes anyway, basically this semester?
Yeah, my first class today was yoga. It was amazing. And then I only have one class Tuesday, Thursday, and no classes Friday.
Perfect. Yeah, that's how it should be second semester senior when you've already gotten into grad school and you're good to go. So
I'm chilling, just trying to get to the finish line.
Yeah, no, you got it. You got it.
How was your day?
It was, it was a Monday, but I mean, it's all right. Work was work. Nobody cares about that. I did want to update. Actually, probably nobody cares about this either, but I decided for sure to bail on A Court of Thorns and Roses series. So,
yes, big news.
Yeah, I got halfway through the second book and I got word from one of our listeners. She was like, "Don't do it." She's like, "Life is too short to read unengaging books." I'm like, "You're so right. You are so right." So I'm done.
Finished the second book and I am currently listening to the third one right now. And reading Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo.
That's a much better book.
Yeah. So I'm doing 2 at once right now. New year, new me.
I was like, that's so ambitious. Listening to A Court of Thorns and Roses is going to take you forever, but okay.
It said it's 25 hours.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Which honestly isn't as long as I expected. Like, I feel like it would take me more than 25 straight hours to read it. Because it's like 750 pages.
Right.
But anyways, enough about books. Nobody cares.
That's nobody cares about that. Nobody cares about anything in my life going on. So
that's so depressing. Don't say that.
I have no exciting news to share, but wait, okay, Hallie told me this off the pod, but do you want to tell the listeners about the experience your roommate had at IU?
Oh my gosh. Homeless? Yes. Okay. So if you've ever been to Bloomington, Indiana, for some reason there's like a ton of homeless people that live here, which like I feel like is kind of the same with a lot of college towns, but like it's actually a big issue
it's a problem
here
at Bloomington for some reason.
Yeah, they're like very uncontrolled. And and my roommate on Sunday texted in our group chat and was like, "Guys, like I just got chased inside of our house by a homeless lady with a hammer." And she like came into our home chasing my roommate with a hammer. And my roommate Mariah had to like call the cops on her and like threaten. Well, the way she got her to leave is that she was like gonna call the cops, but like low-key life or death experience.
Yeah, just your average day on Bloomington's campus. So
yeah, honestly, she was pretty unfazed, which is like impressive because I don't know if I would have handled it that way. But yeah, now we like never locked the doors whenever we left our house. Like we would lock it at night, but like there's 5 of us and we're always constantly coming and going throughout the day. And so we would just like never lock the doors, which is bad.
Is not smart. No, you need to always lock the door.
Now we're locking the doors after that.
Hallie, how have you lived on Bloomington's campus for 4 years and you're just now like, oh, January of my last year of school, I'm going to start locking my door after me? Like, are you kidding me?
I feel like there's never more than like 30 minutes where someone is not at the house.
There's no way that's true. There's even if someone's at the house. Okay. Yeah. Make sure you do, because now people are going to listen to this and be like, oh, they don't lock their doors.
Look up the address.
Yeah. They're going to find you.
No, we do lock the door now.
Okay. Whatever. But
anyways, enough about me.
yeah.
This is exposing.
Yeah, okay. Well, we do have a good episode all about Rome today. I'm really excited because I've never been to Rome, and so I'm really excited. I feel like Hallie and I never did really like a deep dive on Rome when we were just like chatting about her time when she was there this past summer. So I'm excited to really hear her thoughts about it. We're going to hit on some of the like can't miss spots in Rome and also Vatican City, which is technically its own country, but it's really close to Rome. Learn a little history and stick around because we have another little travel hack at the end for you. So let's get into it. Enjoy today's episode on Rome, Italy. Okay, let's start with some of our listener questions that we got. So the first one was, are you Team Remus or Team Romulus? Which, Hallie, would you have any idea what this meant?
I had heard of the names, but I was unfamiliar with the story, so I had to do a little bit of digging, a little bit of research.
Well, had you heard of it?
What team I was on?
Well, had you heard of it like just because you went to Rome, or is this something that I should have like known about regardless of having been to Rome or not?
No, I didn't hear about it when I was in Rome.
Okay, good.
Nobody ever talked about it, but
Wait, so how did you know about it?
I think I'd like heard about it when I like was learning about like Greek mythology or like ancient Rome, maybe like in school.
Okay.
Somehow I had heard about it, but it's been a long time.
Familiar to me, but I have no idea. So the story is deep in Roman mythology or the ancient legends, tale as old as time, whatever it is. There's some debate about these two people. They're twins. Okay. So they were the legend has it they were son of a human woman and a god, the Mars, god of war. And these twins were ordered to be killed by the king. And so their mother put them in a little basket, put them in a river, sent them on their way. And then this wolf found them and then raised them. And so apparently,
so if you've ever seen, there's like a famous sculpture of a wolf standing and two baby boys like feeding off of the wolf. I have like seen that sculpture before. Had you?
Not that I really remember, but
okay.
I think
this is
multiple.
Like a famous. Yeah, this is like a famous depiction of this story.
Yeah, there's like sculptures, and it's in like art and paintings and things of these. Yes, two human boys suckling on the wolf. So
I hate that word.
They're not just. What was the word you said? I had to
feeding.
I had to paint the picture for the listeners. So anyways, as adults, these twins, after they were nourished by the wolf, they wanted to build a city, but they disagreed on where it should be. So apparently, let me make sure I get this right.
Well, they killed the king.
Oh, see, I
they
didn't know
overthrew the king. To my understanding, is the two
wolf
twins
gave them special
grow
powers.
up. Yeah. Well, they're the sons of this like powerful god, which is why
Mars,
the king wanted them killed.
Mm-hmm.
But then they survive and they grow up, and then I think they kill the king to like take the power. Okay. I could literally be so wrong, but this is what I read on Wikipedia.
Okay, it's very debated. No, it's debated amongst different sources and things. So,
then yes, the two twins disagree on where to establish their city. And Remus,
Romulus kills Remus.
Let me explain. Remus makes fun of Romulus's city and like is putting him down and is like, your city sucks. And then Romulus kills Remus for making fun of him.
So they had two cities?
Yeah.
So what's Remus's city?
I don't know if it's ever like discussed.
Okay, but he was making fun of Romulus for what became present day Rome.
And he was like, yo, Rome sucks. And then Romulus like,
killed him. I'll show you, dude. So he kills his twin brother, and then Rome becomes Rome.
Romulus is Rome.
Right.
Exactly. So this is the founding tale of Rome. So I guess it's some great debate. Are you team Remus or team Romulus? What do you think?
I'm not going to back a murderer, so I think I'm going to say I'm team Remus.
Okay, I'm team Romulus because
she likes a
why?
bad boy.
Ew. Dude, that was horrible. Never say that again.
Okay, well, what's your
I
reasoning?
just cringed.
What's your reasoning?
My reasoning is that these two boys are born. They've been through so much together. They finally grow up and have what they've always wanted. Why is Remus turning against his brother and trying to like hate on his city? Like they're in this together. They've been in this together the entire time until Remus decides to be an ass about it. And then
well, maybe Romulus was being mean to him and wouldn't let him help. Why were they trying to make two different cities? Yeah.
I don't know. They probably both like wanted to be their own ruler.
Yeah. This isn't even true. I don't believe it I don't believe even a part of it. Like I don't
Really?
think any of it's true. Like I think because if there were two twins that made this city, like how did it become that they suckled on a wolf to gain this nourishment? Like just none of it's true. No, I don't believe any of it.
Okay. Do you believe Tarzan's not true?
Yes, I believe Tarzan's not true. Is that a debated thing? Do people actually think that really happened?
I don't know. That's just like the closest comparison I could think of.
All right. Well, we need to put a poll on the Instagram story to find out if other people are Team Remus or Romulus.
Yeah.
There's probably more details that I'm missing. But I'm going to stick with my answer, Team Remus. Okay. The next question was, is Rome good for a honeymoon? Like I said, I've never been to Rome, but I asked Jackson and he said for like people who love just travel in general, good food, historical sites, museums, then it would be a great spot for a honeymoon. But he's like, not so much if you're looking for more of a relaxing honeymoon, because he's like, we got like over 30,000 steps every single day that we were there. So it just depends on kind of what sort of honeymoon you want.
100%. That's exactly what I was going to say. Like for me personally, when I think of a honeymoon, I think of relaxing, lounging by the beach, by the ocean. Like some people want the complete opposite of that on their honeymoon and want something where they're going to be active and on the go. And so honestly, it completely depends on like what you're looking for. But yes, when we were in Rome, granted, we were only there for 2 days. So we it's a huge city. Like 2 days is not really enough to cover the entire city of Rome at all. So we were like jam packing everything and we were constantly on the go. So like for us, it felt very hectic. Maybe if you were there for a week, it could still like be pretty relaxing.
You could have your leisure time in between like the big things that you're doing that day. Yeah.
Yeah. But it's such a great city if you're somebody who appreciates history, appreciates art. If that stuff doesn't interest you, then Rome probably shouldn't be on the top of your list. But it has amazing things to see. So
okay, next question was any non-touristy food or entertainment spots that you would recommend? Did you have anything for that, Hal?
I did not, because like I said, we were literally there for 2 days. So everything we did was pretty touristy and we were trying to do like the most popular and most recommended things. So I unfortunately can't give a lot of advice on that. Yeah. I wish I could, but
it's honestly probably pretty hard. Just because Rome is such like a hot spot destination to go. Yeah. And so you'd have to like really try to find people who spent an extended period of time there, like maybe try to find people that like studied abroad there or something like that and see if they have any recommendations. Maybe we can put something on the Instagram, like a question box, and put this out for other people to answer to see if other people have thoughts on that. But
yeah.
Okay. And then another question, or like, this is the last question, kind of like a 2-part question. Is Rome worth the hype? Where does it land if you had to rank top cities in Italy you've been to? So I asked Jackson this too, and he said Rome was Jackson's favorite city in Italy that he went to. And he just went to Rome, Venice, and Milan. So it doesn't have a ton to compare to, but he said the pasta. He's obsessed with, pasta is his favorite food by far. And he said the food in Rome was by far the best classic Italian food that he had. So that
sure.
in and of itself is worth the hype. And he loved the history and all the culture and everything that he learned to it. He was like, literally, if you're going just for the food, that would even be worth it. So yeah, he loved it.
I would completely agree with that. I think the food in Rome was amazing. The gelato in Rome was amazing. The cannolis in Rome were amazing. So good. Also, just like the history in itself, like the Coliseum is one of the 7 wonders of the world. So getting to say you've gone to see that, even if like you're not a history buff, I mean, you can't deny that that's like so cool.
Right.
So that's makes it worth it to me. I would say if I had to rank the cities in Italy that I've been to, I haven't been to Venice, so I can't compare that. I did go to Milan. Milan would probably be towards the bottom of my list.
I agree.
It was beautiful, but wasn't anything that like really stood out to me. I don't know. It's so hard to compare like super relaxing destinations to a place like Rome.
I feel like the coast cities of Italy are so different than something like Rome.
Yeah.
What do you
even
think, like
Florence
versus
is so
Rome?
different too.
You feel like you can't even compare those?
I felt like I maybe enjoyed Florence more than I enjoyed Rome, but
you were you in Florence longer?
I was in Florence longer, so to me it felt less hectic, a little more relaxing. But also it's like if I were to go back to either Florence or Rome again, I would choose to go back to Rome because I feel like there's more there that I didn't experience.
Okay, that makes sense.
Whereas like I spent like 1 day more in Florence and I felt like I had kind of seen it all.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I would rank Rome pretty high. I think it's amazing. And you also have the Vatican City in there that you can explore. So it just has so much to offer, so much to do.
Okay, so that was the listener question. So, okay, let's get into Hallie, like your specific kind of thoughts on Rome. Do you want to give us like a quick little like brief overview, thoughts on Rome, what comes to mind when we're talking about it?
Okay, so I've said this like a few times, but we were only there for a couple days. It was super hot both days that we were there. This is like first week in August to set the scene. They say it's the busiest summer that Rome has ever experienced. So there were so many people everywhere. It was very overwhelming. Our Airbnb was a really good location. It was like a 10-minute walk from Trevi Fountain, which is, if you've seen the Lizzie McGuire movie, you know, it's where she like makes the wish at the fountain.
Did you like wake up really early to try to beat the crowds, or is it just unavoidable, especially like when you were there? It's just like no matter when you go, it's going to be like insanely packed.
No, you can definitely beat the crowds if you go early. Because I'll get to this later, but we had like a super early Vatican City tour. And so we like saw the fountain on our way there and it was like not crowded. Yeah.
Okay, good.
Another thing that I would recommend is Mr. 100 Tiramisu. So we saw this on TikTok and it's this tiramisu place that has 100 different kinds of tiramisu.
Oh my gosh.
It's the coolest place ever. I had never been to anything like it. Never been to a tiramisu place in general, but this place was so cool. They like make it right in front of you. It's super fresh. The like employees were super nice. So it was really fun. Delish. I can't remember what kind I got. I think I got
what kind of flavors were like.
One of my friends got cookies and cream. Okay. My other friend got dulce de leche. It was so good though. So I have a picture of the menu that I'll post on the Instagram so you can see like all the different flavors, but couldn't recommend more. Also, Vespas everywhere. The stereotype is so true. And I think it's mostly because like the streets are all just so old and like most of them are just so tiny and narrow that like would be just way easier to drive a little Vespa around. But
compared to like a car or something.
Yeah.
But is it walkable? I mean, could you walk, or like why Vespa's over like just like walking?
Yeah, it's a pretty not walkable, I would say. Okay. I don't know. It depends where you are. Cause like Trevi Fountain and the Coliseum and where we were staying, like we walked to each of those places. But the Vatican, we walked to from our Airbnb, and it was like a 45-minute walk.
Okay, yeah.
So it just, I mean, you can
like,
do it, but
rent, or can you like do people use Vespas as like taxis? Like, can you just like be like, hey, can I have a ride, or does that like not happen?
I did not, unfortunately, but I did take a taxi in Rome because, like I said, when we walked to Vatican, it was 45 minutes. And then, but that was like super early in the morning, so it wasn't too hot yet. So we were like, okay, we can do it. But then by the time we were done with the tour, it was like 1 p.m., heat of the day. We were like, we're not making it back. So we got a taxi, and this taxi driver was so funny. He like didn't speak any English, but he was like trying to make conversation with us, and he was just like singing these like Italian songs.
Oh my gosh.
And we were just like in the back, and it was so funny. But then he kept trying to talk to us in any kind of word that he knew in English. But the only thing he knew was like spaghetti. Like he kept just being like, he would like point to restaurants and be like, spaghetti, spaghetti, spaghetti.
Oh, he's trying to give you guys recommendations. That's
yeah, because that was like the only word that he knew that like we would know.
Spaghetti?
Oh, me gusta mucho.
Ti gusta, eh?
Sì.
Aperitivo, vedi? Aperol.
We don't like Aperol.
Aperol Spritz.
No.
No?
It's bad.
No, Aperol Spritz. Che ti piace?
He was whipping it down these tiny little cobblestone streets. It was crazy. Like these roads are so narrow, like narrow enough for barely one car to get through. But then there's also pedestrians that are walking down these little alleys.
Yeah.
So you're trying to like avoid them, and they're so bumpy. So you're just like flying around in the back.
Yeah. Okay, wait. So how was Vatican City? What did you think of that?
So amazing. Definitely a must do if you go to Rome. Got to see the Sistine Chapel, St. Peter's Basilica. Just everything was so beautiful. It's crazy to me though, like how it's a country. It doesn't seem like a country
Was it like
at all.
a stark contrast of like you could tell like when you got into Vatican City that it was like different than Rome, or not really?
It basically just felt like one big enclosed museum.
Oh,
like there were just so many different buildings that were just all kind of like museums, and that's basically all it is. Like there's nothing really else to it.
Did people like live there though, right? There's like residential.
I think there are apartments and like little residential areas, but basically kind of just like government officials, I think.
Right.
And like let me look up what the population is.
Yeah. And how far was it from Rome? Like the city center of Rome?
825 people live in the Vatican City.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah, that's really small.
So it's pretty much just like the people that work there and like the Pope.
Yeah.
It's technically like the city of Rome kind of surrounds it.
Is like the Coliseum in like the city center of Rome? Is that like pretty centrally located?
Yeah, Trevi Fountain and the Coliseum are kind of like right around the center. Give me a second, I'll map it. Yeah, it says 42-minute walk, 3 kilometers away from Trevi Fountain, which is like basically the center-ish of the city.
Okay, so Sistine Chapel, what was that like?
So cool to see. And it's like, I'm not even this like big art history buff. Like I've always thought it's interesting to learn about like the history behind art pieces, but literally even if you know nothing about it, I don't know how you could see that and not be just completely blown away. It's so big, and to think that somebody like painted all the little details, and I mean it was crazy. But one of the cool things that we did was we got like a guided tour of it, and so I actually learned a lot on the tour that I didn't know before. And the most interesting thing that the tour guide was telling us is that Michelangelo didn't want the job of painting the Sistine Chapel. Like he dreaded having to do it, which I thought
like
was
so
crazy.
Big and just like overwhelming.
It's so big and overwhelming, and he's not a painter, he's a sculptor.
Right? Yeah,
because of like why you know him for Michelangelo's David,
right? So did he do that first? He did David first, and then the Pope was like, oh, that was great. Why don't you paint this church?
Yeah. So basically the Pope, which was Pope Julius II, who I guess is pretty infamous for being like super demanding and mean and brutal. But basically he told Michelangelo that he was going to be the painter and like he couldn't say no. So he was like, okay, I guess I'm doing this. But he was like so intimidated by it because he's like, I looked it up. He had only painted 4 paintings in his entire career before he had to do the Sistine Chapel. The rest were sculptures.
Wow.
So it's like he
And he
had
did it
no
all
experience. Yes, completely by
just
himself.
him.
Yes.
That's amazing.
So then I was like doing some digging and I was like, okay, so why Michelangelo was obviously around when all of these like famous painters were around, like Donatello and Raphael and the Ninja Turtles, you know.
Yeah, of course.
And so I was like, why would the Pope want Michelangelo to do it? So I'm like doing my own research here. And I found out that Raphael who was like another really famous artist.
Right.
Super jealous of Michelangelo because Michelangelo was like in his early 20s when he did the David sculpture and like got super famous. And so Raphael was like really jealous of all of his success. And so he actually suggested to Pope Julius II that he should ask Michelangelo to do the Sistine Chapel.
He was trying to set him up for failure.
Yes, he goes to the Pope and he's like, you know who, like, I've heard is such a talented artist is this Michelangelo. You should really ask him to do it. Knowing that he has no painting experience. So he totally tries to set him up, thinking that it's going to go horribly and he's going to make a fool out of himself. But joke's on Raphael because Michelangelo killed it. So
is that like confirmed by multiple sources, or is this just like legend has it Raphael was a little jealous of Mike's success?
I was looking up on some credible art history website.
AKA Wikipedia.
No, actually not Wikipedia.
Okay.
I found like an article that was written, so I should probably check my sources a little more, but I thought it was so interesting that I had to share the tea.
I believe it. I like the story.
Yeah, just to make things a little more juicy, but yeah.
So also, are you team Raphael or team Michelangelo?
I'll be Michelangelo. Yeah. I love an underdog. Okay, another thing that I learned from the tour guide is that if you look at the painting of the Sistine Chapel from the top to the bottom, the top half is like way more intricate and detailed and has like way smaller images than the bottom half. And she said it was because he was painting the top half and then like got down from the scaffolding and realized you couldn't even see like any of the detail that he had painted from the ground because the ceiling is so high up that like when you're on the ground, you can't even see it. So then he was like, oh, well, that was dumb. I just wasted so much time. And then the bottom half, he like took way less time on and did way less detailed.
Interesting.
Yeah. So if you look at it, you can actually compare like the top to the bottom. It's like very different.
I love that.
Yeah. So many fun facts that I learned on my tour. It was great. Highly recommend.
Well, that's another thing I was going to say. I feel like, tell me if you disagree, but I feel like some places you can just kind of like go and figure out yourself like what you're looking at. But I feel like Rome, and Vatican City, obviously, there's so much history that it's so old that you need the details. You need to go on like the guided tours. It's definitely 100% worth paying for that to get the information.
Yeah, definitely. Because we went through so many other things besides the Sistine Chapel. So like, I feel like the Sistine Chapel obviously is really well known. Maybe there are probably a lot of people that know a lot of information about that piece of art without needing somebody to tell them about it. But there's so many other museums that we went through and so many other pieces of art that I learned so much about that I had never even heard of.
Right.
So either way, even if you think you're an expert on certain pieces of art, I guarantee you're still going to learn a lot.
For sure. Yeah. It's worth, and you're there. Like, don't go all the way to like not learn something about it.
Right.
So,
exactly.
Okay. So what else did you see?
We also saw the St. Peter's Basilica, which is actually Michelangelo's final commission. He was the architect of the building.
Okay.
And he was named the architect at age 71. And so the building
Oh.
wasn't finished until after he died, but he designed it himself. It's known now as like one of the holiest Catholic shrines. It is the most beautiful building I've ever seen. It's so detailed, so intricate and ornate, and everything is like crusted in gold. And I can't even imagine how much money was spent on
Right.
that building. But it's just so grand. Like the ceilings are so tall. And I have this video that I'll put on the Instagram and pictures too. But it puts it into perspective because you can see like the little people walking on the bottom.
Right,
And
yeah.
then you see how tall the ceiling is. And it's just mind blowing.
Okay, and then you briefly mentioned the Colosseum. So what were your thoughts on that?
So cool. It was just amazing to see. I mean, I like, you know what it looks like, but like
Yeah.
being there, being inside of it, and just knowing, it was so difficult for me to wrap my head around how old it actually is, because it
Right.
started being built in the year 70,
Right.
which I'm like, I can't even, what even was around then? I don't even
Yeah.
know. Like, I feel like when you learn history in school, you don't even learn what was going on then.
Right.
You like start later.
What was life at that point?
Yeah. So basically, the reason it was built is because Rome was like pretty much in shambles after this like big plague came through. And so tons of people died. Tons of people were like living in poverty. The economy was horrible. And so the king, or the emperor, decided to build this Coliseum to kind of stimulate the economy, give people some entertainment to like help them escape from
The
basically
plague.
how horrible their life was.
Yeah.
And so he built this Coliseum, and it had the capacity of 50 to 80,000 is like what they estimate. And the crazy thing is, it's like when you see pictures of it, you can clearly tell that there's like parts of it that are missing. Like obviously it's
That
been
haven't withstood time and
right.
yeah.
But in our like tour, they were saying that only 33% of it still remains. So what you see is only a third of what it originally was.
So was it originally much taller or like wider, or like what is not there anymore?
It's just like it used to be,
Or there was just more to it?
like thicker. Like
Okay,
it's just
yeah.
like kind of gotten more frail and
Yeah,
fragile.
okay.
And like all of the seats that used to be built into the stadium are no longer there.
Okay.
But it still is like hard to wrap my head around that that's only a third of it, because like
Right.
the foundation is still all there. So I don't know, that was just really interesting to me.
Mm-hmm.
But it was also used to reinforce the social hierarchy, which I thought was interesting, because the women and the poor and the slaves were all like obviously forced to sit in the nosebleeds, and then like the more wealthy you are and more important you were, obviously you could sit like closer in the better seats,
Yeah.
which like you would expect. But it's interesting because this was like the first time ever that like women or the poor or slaves were allowed to be a part of something like that was considered like a leisure activity or a form of entertainment. And so even though it was used to enforce the social hierarchy, it was pretty smart the way they did it, because even though there were people that were clearly viewed as less important than others, they were just happy to be there. They like
Right.
felt so thankful to even be given the opportunity to see the show and to like be included in it, that they didn't care that they were like less important, basically.
Right. That they didn't even have good seats, but
yeah,
that they were just there at all. They were happy.
Yeah. So basically the whole thing was the emperor's like scheme to kind of trick the
Right.
poor into not being unhappy, and they got this free show and this free food, and then that way they wouldn't like revolt and rise up against the higher
Interesting.
class. Yeah.
Okay.
Super interesting. But yeah, so I'm learning all this on my tour, okay? And this
Yes.
tour is supposed to be 2 hours long of the Coliseum.
Okay.
you can buy like longer tours that you can get like a 2-hour tour, a 3-hour tour, a 4-hour tour, I'm pretty sure. We bought the 2-hour tour because this was the same day that we did the Vatican. So we did the
Okay.
Vatican in the morning, and then we like got a couple hours in the middle to like rest, and then we had to get back out and do the Coliseum tour.
Yeah.
And so we're like exhausted by this point, but we're like, we have one full day basically, like we gotta
Right,
get it
you
all
gotta
in.
do it. Yeah.
Yeah. So we get to our Coliseum tour, and it magnificently, like the temperature like cooled way down. It was like way
Great.
nicer out. It was great. So we're on this tour that's supposed to be 2 hours long, and the 2-hour mark hits, and our tour guide is yapping. He is not indicating that he is anywhere near being done with what he has to say. And he keeps mentioning like, oh, and on our second and third stops, I'll tell you more about this, blah, 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 blah. But we're like still in the Coliseum. And so
Right.
everybody's looking at each other like second and third stops.
Yeah, like,
what-
where's he
we're
taking
already at
us?
2 hours. Like,
Yeah.
where else are we going? So then he takes us to the Arch of Constantine.
Okay.
So that was built in the year 315 in commemoration of the victory of Constantine First the Great. Wish I knew the history of that, but I don't.
Didn't listen too much on your tour, apparently.
Well, by that, I was pretty zoned out because we had already been standing in the Colosseum for like 2.5 hours. So we get to this arch. He tells us about the arch. Great. Now we're on to stop number 3. Okay. At this time, it's like 3 hours into our tour. That was supposed to be over in 2 hours.
Right.
And, you know, okay, we're thankful to be in Rome. We're not complaining.
Right.
But like,
right.
also, we're hungry.
Yes.
We're like,
hungry
it's just like wasn't
girls.
what we were planning for.
Yeah.
And we're a little confused because he's like, just keeps going, whatever.
Right.
He takes us into this like garden park. Okay. We're on this hike. We are hiking
you're
up this
hiking.
hill. We are hiking. Nobody knew this was coming. Everyone in the tour group is like looking at each other. We're all like talking to each other, like, yo, did you know it was supposed to take this long? Like, no one was expecting it. So we're hiking up this hill in this random park. Nobody knows where we are. And we get to the top of this mountain, okay? Or not mountain, it's like a hill.
Yeah, I was like, where are you?
It's a mountain to me.
Right.
And we see in the distance black clouds.
Oh,
like
no.
black. And they're quickly moving towards us. And we're like, oh my gosh, like this guy, like he sees the clouds. He knows we're about to get torrentially downpoured on. And he's talking, he's giving us the history of this park. And he's also just one of those people that is a rambler and like went off on these random tangents with this thick Italian accent.
Lacking social cues a little bit.
Oh, so much.
Yeah.
So much. And so he's talking and he's talking. We spend like another hour in this park. Okay. So now it's a 4-hour tour. That was supposed to be 2 hours. So at this point, people are like annoyed. Like, definitely annoyed by this point. And the clouds now are directly over the top of us. So it starts raining, like sprinkling, and he's still talking.
Yeah.
And we're like, okay, can we leave? Like, we're getting rained on.
Yeah.
And then it starts torrentially downpouring.
Oh my gosh.
And he goes, okay, so like, I guess now I'll wrap up since you guys probably want to get out of this bad weather. And we're like, yeah, like, how do we get out of here? We're on the top of the hill that we just hiked up. And he's like, starts pointing. He's like, well, like, you need to go this way and then like around that corner. And then the gate is on the left. But then if you go down this, he's like giving us so many directions. And we're like, what are you saying?
Right.
And he's like, you'll just have to figure it out. It's too complicated to explain.
Oh my
And we're
gosh.
all looking at him like, are you kidding me? It's pouring. We are all drenched. And he's like, I can't direct you out of this park. Like, you'll have to figure it out.
My job here is done. I'm a tour guide, not a rescue.
My tour is finished. I'm off the clock. Like, bye.
Oh
and
my
just
gosh.
leaves us all there. And so we like are sprinting out of this park. Granted, I am wearing a white skirt. Okay.
Oh no. Mistake.
I did not know it was supposed to rain. And I also didn't think I was going to be out there long enough to get stuck in the rain. So we finally find our way out of this park, and it's like a 25-minute walk back to our Airbnb. And
the
it's
downpouring rain.
pouring. Yes. And so we just like, we're like, whatever, like we're already drenched. Like we're just gonna do it. So we're just like running through the streets of Rome, trying to get back to our Airbnb. We get so lost. Okay.
Oh my gosh.
So lost. And then we get like 10 minutes away from our Airbnb finally, and we're starving. We're so hungry. It's like 8:30 by this point. And we were supposed to like eat at 6.
Right,
The
right.
tour took so freaking long. And so we're so hungry. And we're like, we don't want to go back to our Airbnb, have to shower, get all ready again. And then, because that's going to take another like hour till we can get food. And we're so hungry. And we're like, screw it. We're just going in like this.
And you're soaked through white skirt.
Soaking. We actually all look like wet dogs. And I have the funniest picture. We're like finger combing our hair like at the dinner table. Like people were so afraid of us.
Oh, you went to like a sit down place? Why didn't you just get like a to-go thing?
We couldn't find anything. We like were walking through the streets and everywhere was either full or like couldn't get us in, or there were lines out the door. And
they weren't full, honey. They just said there's no room for you.
No room for wet dogs in our restaurant. We looked so bad.
Yeah, you're lucky somebody let you in.
Yeah, so we get into this sit down like pizza joint, and it was fire. It was so good. But we were just like, people were definitely getting like the biggest kick out of us because we looked so scary, but we were just ravenous and needed food immediately. So then we got our pizza and had a nice little soggy 10-minute walk back home, but at least we were happy and full.
Those bellies were full, hangry no more.
But when I tell you that it was raining so hard, like you couldn't even see. Like we were outside and like it was raining so hard you could barely open your eyes, and like we were having to like run 50 meters and then we'd like jump into a shop really quick and like take shelter and like wring out our clothes.
I kind of feel like that's better though. Sometimes I just love, if it's gonna rain, just downpour.
Unless you're in a white skirt. Okay.
Okay, fair.
Ugh. And then I get back to the Airbnb and I look in the mirror and I realize the complete back of my skirt is like brown from the mud.
No.
So not only is it soaked through, but it's also stained brown.
Yeah, that's why they didn't let you in. They were like, I don't know what problems these girls
They're
have.
Like, we don't know where you've been.
Yeah.
But this looks unsanitary.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny.
Yeah, that was the wrap up to our Rome adventure. We left the next day, but then we ended up having to come back to Rome because that's where we flew out of to get back to the US. And so
after you did like more travels elsewhere.
Yeah, so we technically did go back to Rome, but that was a whole other adventure because we were coming from Salerno, Italy, which is kind of down by the Amalfi Coast.
Yeah.
And our flight was like 11 a.m. in the morning, but we had to get up super early coming from Salerno because we had to like train all the way to Rome and then get through security, the whole thing.
Right. Because
so we wake up
an
at like
international flight, like back to the US. Yeah.
Right, exactly. So we get up at like 6 a.m. in Salerno to get on the train to go to the Rome airport. And as soon as we wake up, we all check our phones and we all have emails that our flight has been canceled.
No.
Yeah. And like not delayed, canceled.
Right.
And
Worst
they
nightmare.
like don't give a reason. They're just like, oh, it's canceled. Sorry.
Right.
And we're like, what are you supposed to do in that situation? Like just absolute panic.
Yeah.
So we're like, well, we have to get out of this Airbnb. We like don't have it another day. We already have all of our trains pre-booked to like take us to Rome.
Right. At least.
And so we're
Rome.
like,
yeah.
So we're like, okay, I guess we're just gonna get to Rome. So we get on our train from Salerno and then we stop in Florence and have to get on a new train. But our train from Salerno super delayed. There was like some type of problem on the train and we had to like stop at one of the other stops for a really long time. Basically, we get to Florence and miss our train.
Oh,
we're like, this day could
Well,
not
at least
be
you're
going
not trying to catch
any
a
worse.
flight. At least you know you're not going to miss your flight because it's not existent anymore.
And at this point, this is the very end of our trip. We are so over carrying our giant suitcases everywhere, like up and down so many stairs, on and off so many trains. We're so fed up with it.
Yeah.
And so we get off the train at Florence and we have to find like the customer service desk.
Right.
And it's like down these stairs and around the corner. We're like lugging our huge suitcases down the steps. And one of my friends that I was with, her name's Reagan, we were just so frustrated. And she just like let out the biggest like frustrated scream. She's like, bring your suitcase down. She like is like, oh my gosh, I just want to get home, but like screams. Like, so we thought no one was around, like nobody was around us, but then we turned a corner and there was like a housekeeping lady like cleaning the hallway. She turned and looked at us and was like jaw was on the floor and like looked horrified. And we were like, oh, I'm sorry. Like, we were so embarrassed, but it was funny. So eventually we get to the help desk, and they were actually so helpful. Like, shout out to the Florence trained customer service. I don't know what their title is, but they were like, oh, don't worry about it at all. They got us new tickets that we didn't have to pay for. They, like, told us exactly where we need to go. And we had, like, the Florence train connected to Rome, but then we had to get on a different train from Rome to get us to the airport. So we had like multiple trains now that we were missing because this one got delayed. So they like figured it all out for us, got it all set up. It was great. Super low stress. They killed it. Okay. To wrap this up, sorry. This is just like such an adventure. Eventually we get to the Rome airport and we're like talking to the people and we're like, yo, why is our flight canceled? Like, we're supposed to get back to the US. Like, my friend Megan had to take the GRE in like 2 days back in the States. Yeah. So she's like, I like actually have to be home. Like, I can't like be here 2 more days, whatever. And they set us up in the bougiest hotel. Okay.
Because they couldn't find a flight for you that day. So, right?
So they're like, the next flight we can get you on is the next day. So they put us up in this hotel for like the whole day and that night. And then we get on the next flight the next day. This hotel was so nice. And they gave us like 3 meal vouchers. We got like free lunch, free dinner, free breakfast the next day. I was low-key loving it.
Yeah. Hallie,
like I had nothing to be home for. I was like, wait, extra day of vacation? Okay.
And this story is part of the reason, honestly, why Hallie and I started this podcast, because we were like, oh my gosh, okay, great. Like, your flight gets canceled, but Hallie did some little like solo exploration on this day that she like was put up in this hotel because it was a new, because the hotel or the airport is not like in the city of Rome, right? So it was like a new like kind of area.
Kind of by the coast of Italy.
So she got to like explore a little bit around the airport in this new area. And this is where we were like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. Where like other people were like, I know other people would like not be happy about that. And they would just be like, I'm ready to go home and eat my own food and sleep in my own bed. But it's like, you know, this is part of travel. You have to take the good with the bad. And that's kind of what we wanted to like celebrate and be like, yes, we know bad things can happen when you travel. It's not all like perfect stories, but you just got to make the most out of it because you're in Rome. You're in Rome.
It's like literally as much that could go wrong when you're traveling. You just have to put it into perspective that like, you know what? I could be at home right now or at work. Like at least I'm somewhere new and exciting that like, even if this isn't going according to plan, you know, I'm fortunate enough to be somewhere new and to be able to go places that probably 99% of the world's population have only been able to dream about going to. So it's like, you just have to put things into perspective. And just when you're going on big trips like this, you have to understand that like you are going to be the luckiest person in the world if you don't encounter a single travel problem. Like it's going to happen. So like prepare yourself for it, be ready for it, and don't be overwhelmed and have a meltdown if it happens, because you just gotta roll with the punches and life will be okay. But eventually I made it home and all was well, and it was just another adventure, another story to tell. So
yeah, they put you in a hotel, they booked you on a flight the next morning, they paid for your food, whatever, right?
Yep.
And then you made it home and it was fine. Yeah. So this brings us to our travel hack to know. So there's this travel law. It's called EU 261. And this is really important. You can get a lot of money, which, Hallie, have you heard anything yet?
I have not. I've sent 2 emails.
All right.
And I haven't heard.
Basically, I think you have to keep following up. But anyways, this law states that if you are in a flight into or out of the European Union and it is delayed by more than 3 hours or canceled completely, like Hallie's was, you can be compensated up to 600 euros, but sometimes it's like randomly way more. But at least like 600 euros, depending on like the length of your flight. So if it's like more than 3,500 kilometers, you're going to get at least 600 euros, which almost every single flight from anywhere in Europe to the United States is going to be that more than 3,500 kilometers. So basically, if you have a flight into or out of Europe from the US and it gets delayed by more than 3 hours or canceled, make sure you submit a claim online. I'll put the link in the podcast description. And this is in addition to, like, Hallie got the hotel and the flight voucher or the meal vouchers from the airline and stuff like that. Like, that's from the airline canceling her flight. You might get reimbursement from the airline itself too, to like apologize for the delayed flight or canceled flight in addition to the hotels and meals. But then this is like a European Union law. So this is like separate from any airline. So just make sure if you get reimbursed from your airline that you're just submitting a claim for this site as well to get extra cash, because that can fund your next flight to Europe. So
yeah, so true. And it's like, this happened so long ago and I'm like still trying to get information back about it. So it's like not the quickest response, but we have heard of people hearing back and getting money for it. So it's like worth it to do it, worth it to be consistent, and just like,
I mean, it's a law.
They legally are required to give you the money, whether it takes them 6 months or a year to get it to you. Like, they have to give it to you. So
yeah, you're not like begging and bargaining for them to like do something to make up for their mistake. It's truly a law. So yeah, just keep that in mind for any flight delayed by more than 3 hours or canceled going into or out of the European Union. And this counts with like flights within the European Union as well. You just might not get reimbursed as much because those flights are obviously shorter. They're not going to hit that 3,500 kilometer mark, but keep that in mind. So yeah, we'll link that in the podcast description so you can read more about that if that's something that applies to you. Okay, I think that takes us to the end of the Rome content. Thanks for sharing all your thoughts and stories, Hal. That was
of
fun.
Course.
Well, let us know if you guys are team Romulus or Remus or team Raphael or Michelangelo.
Yeah, we have so much tea in this episode.
Yeah, choose your side. Make sure you give us a follow on Instagram at Love It There Pod, where we'll show lots of pictures and videos of the stuff that we talk about. And we'll allow you, that's where you can leave like a listener question for the next topic or the next podcast episode. We'll put a question box on for that. Give us a 5-star rating and leave us a review. And follow us on YouTube if you want. Subscribe to our YouTube channel.
Also, feel free to tell us what places you want to hear about next, either by commenting on the YouTube or on our Instagram. We can't promise that we've been there, but we're always looking to see what you guys are interested in and what you want to hear about. So feel free to let us know.
Perfect. All right, you guys, enjoy the rest of your Thursday, and we will see you next week.
Bye.